Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel that would lead to the release of captives on both sides is now on the brink of collapse after Hamas said Israel repeatedly violated the agreement. Hamas cited recently deadly attacks by Israel, including 4 Palestinians killed over the weekend, as well as large shortfalls in the number of humanitarian aid and fuel trucks allowed to enter Gaza. Palestinians say Israel's barred all but 20,000 of the 200,000 tents that it agreed to send and has entirely failed in its commitment to allow 60,000 mobile homes in Gaza. On Monday, President Trump said the ceasefire deal should be canceled unless Hamas releases all the remaining hostages by Saturday, repeating his threat that all hell is going to break out in Gaza. Palestinians reacted to Trump's threat.
Donald Trump, the U.S. president, says that if Hamas does not provide us with the hostages on time, Gaza will become hell. What hell? Hell worse than what we already have? Hell worse than killing, the destruction, all the practices and inhumane crimes that have occurred in the Gaza Strip have not happened anywhere else in the world.
Most of Gaza remains without running water or reliable power, and most families lack basic services like sanitation and health care. This week, heavy rain and strong winds have left hundreds of thousands of people living in makeshift tents exposed to the severe cold and wet conditions. Meanwhile, President Trump has said Palestinians will have no right of return to Gaza under his plan to expel the territory's entire Palestinian population and for the U.S. to own Gaza. Trump spoke to Fox News' Bret Baier.
We'll build beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians have the right to return?
Spent. No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing.
President Trump's meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah at the White House today. Ahead of the meeting, Trump threatened to cut off U.S. aid to Jordan and to Egypt unless the two countries agree to take in the more than 2 million Palestinians Trump is seeking to permanently expel from Gaza. Both Egypt and Jordan have rejected Trump's idea, which has drawn scorn and condemnation across the Arab world and from world leaders. This week, more than 110 U.S. organizations said they're deeply alarmed by Trump's recent statements. The NGOs wrote in a joint public letter, quote, "Palestine is not just an idea, it's a place. It's a homeland to the Palestinian people. To participate in, facilitate, or endorse their removal from it would violate every precept of international law, devastate the rules-based international order that protects us all, do irreversible harm to America's global influence, and be an act of unconscionable immorality," they wrote. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces raided the educational bookshop, a beloved cultural hub in East Jerusalem that was established more than 4 decades ago. Israeli soldiers detained Palestinian owners Ahmed and Mahmoud Muna and seized hundreds of books on Palestine, including an English-language coloring book for children titled From the River to the Sea and Gaza in Crisis by Noam Chomsky and the Israeli scholar Ilan Pappé. We'll have more on this later in the broadcast with the acclaimed Palestinian poet and journalist Mohammed El-Kurd. The Trump administration's pushed the United States deeper into a constitutional crisis after a federal judge in Rhode Island said the White House ignored his previous order halting Trump's sweeping federal funding freeze. U.S. District Judge John McConnell ruled Monday the Trump administration continues to violate his clear and unambiguous January 29th ruling to keep federal funds flowing. The New York Times reports it's the first time a judge has expressly declared the Trump administration is disobeying a judicial mandate. Attorneys general from 22 states warned in a court filing Friday that Trump's refusal to heed the judge's order continues to cause immediate and irreparable harm, jeopardizing, quote, jobs, lives, and the social fabric of life, unquote. In Washington, D.C., hundreds of protesters rallied outside the offices of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Monday after the Trump administration moved to shut down the agency's headquarters and cut off its funding. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, credited with creating the CFPB, slammed Elon Musk's Doge operation and the Office of Management and Budget's Director Russell Vought, saying their attempt to shutter the CFPB is, quote, the payoff to the rich guys.
This fight is about more than just our financial rules and regulations. This fight is about more than just Democrat versus Republican politics. This fight is about hardworking people versus the billionaires who want to squeeze more and more and more money out of them.
A federal judge has indefinitely extended the deadline for government workers to accept a government buyout issued by Elon Musk's Doge operation, offering 8 months of pay and benefits to anyone taking an early retirement. Unions representing hundreds of thousands of government workers celebrated the extension as a temporary victory, while legal challenges to the buyout offer proceed in court. President Trump signed an executive order Monday directing the Department of Justice to stop enforcing the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of 1977, which bars U.S. citizens from bribing foreign government officials to win business. Separately, Trump fired the head of the Office of Government Ethics Monday. David Huitema was nominated by President Biden and confirmed last November by the Senate before Trump fired him just weeks into his 5-year tenure. Meanwhile, the head of the independent federal agency that protects whistleblowers, Hampton Dellinger, filed a lawsuit Monday challenging his dismissal from the U.S. Office of Special Counsel by President Trump. The Project on Government Oversight called it an illegal firing that, quote, undermines the office that investigates whistleblower disclosures of wrongdoing and enforces the law meant to keep partisan politics out of the federal workforce, unquote. On Monday, a federal court issued a stay allowing Dellinger to keep his job for at least a few days longer while the court considers his lawsuit. A third federal judge has blocked President Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. There are at least 9 lawsuits challenging Trump's order, including one by the ACLU. In related news, Trump's Homeland Security Department is looking to deputize officials with the Internal Revenue Service's criminal unit and other Treasury Department personnel to assist in federal immigration enforcement. The U.S. Justice Department has directed Manhattan prosecutors to drop corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Emile Beauvais, Trump's acting deputy attorney general, wrote that the DOJ decided to interfere because the indictment against Adams created a hurdle in Adams' ability to carry out Trump's crackdown on immigrant communities. The DOJ is calling for the charges to be dropped without prejudice, meaning they can be revived at any point. The order came on the same day Adams reportedly ordered his staff not to publicly criticize Trump and not to intervene with federal immigration enforcement. This comes amidst mounting confusion and mixed messages from the Adams administration over how workers should respond to ICE if they show up at city buildings like schools and hospitals. Last month, Mayor Adams traveled to Palm Beach personally to meet with Trump in Mar-a-Lago and attended his inauguration. Queens Assembly member, New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani said, quote, in the midst of a right-wing billionaire assault on the working class of our city, Eric Adams sold us out for another personal favor, Mamdani said. On Monday, Trump pardoned former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, who in 2011 was convicted and jailed for attempting to sell Barack Obama's U.S. Senate seat. Blagojevich's prison term was cut short in 2020 when Trump commuted his sentence during his first presidency. The U.S. Senate voted Monday to advance Tulsi Gabbard's nomination to become Director of National Intelligence. Many Democrats have opposed Gabbard's nomination over her 2017 meeting with Syria's then-leader Bashar al-Assad and past comments blaming NATO for Russia's war in Ukraine. This is California Senator Adam Schiff speaking on the Senate floor Monday.
She can apologize for Assad or Putin or any other murderous dictator to her heart's content. But we're not considering Ms. Gabbard for some position in which her bizarre fondness for foreign despots is beside the point. She is not the nominee for Postmaster General. We're considering her for one of the most important jobs in our intelligence community. And for that, Tulsi Gabbard is a walking 5-alarm fire and must be rejected.
During her Senate confirmation hearing, Tulsi Gabbard repeatedly refused to call Edward Snowden a traitor. Sam Altman, the CEO and co-founder of OpenAI, said his company is not for sale after Elon Musk and his investors on Monday offered to buy OpenAI's for-profit assets for $97.4 billion. Altman responded to the bid by posting on X, "No, thank you, but we will buy Twitter for $9.74 billion if you want." Altman has been attempting to disentangle OpenAI, which developed ChatGPT, from its nonprofit status and board. OpenAI was co-founded by Musk in 2015, but he left in 2019. Vice President J.D. Vance, who's in Paris for the AI Action Summit, as is Sam Altman, warned other countries against regulating U.S. tech and blasted the European Union's ongoing efforts to regulate AI, social media, and tech monopolies. And the Pentagon has ordered an immediate ban on transgender military recruits and halted all gender-affirming medical procedures for active-duty military. Legal groups, including Human Rights Campaign, have filed lawsuits against Trump's anti-trans EO on behalf of military members. On Friday, the Education Department ordered an end to programs that support transgender students. Here in New York, trans youth and their allies held a massive rally in Union Square to defend trans rights amidst recent moves by local hospitals to halt gender-affirming care. This is 14-year-old Nero.
As a pre-existing NYU land gun patient, the recent events concerning NYU and the orange in office is really upsetting. Though I'm not directly as affected as others who recently have been denied health care. This is pure discrimination. This is offensive. This should not be allowed. And I want to finish by saying that we as a community will not stop fighting this fight.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.